Imagine this paradox. We live in an age when humanity can take a picture of a black hole, an object that eats light itself, and yet many of us feel swallowed by darkness of another kind. We can observe the afterglow of the Big Bang, but can't always see the glow in one another. We can model the birth of galaxies, simulate the behavior of space-time, but still struggle to understand the gravity of our own actions. It's a strange time to be human. We can measure distances to stars billions of light years away, yet the distance between two disagreeing minds seems infinite. We can map the geometry of the cosmos, but not the contours of our own empathy. And so I begin with a question not about the universe, but about us. If we can capture the image of a black hole, can we also confront the ones we carry inside ourselves? A black hole is the universe's most perfect secret keeper. It is born when a massive star collapses under its own gravity, crushing matter and light into a singularity, a point of infinite density, zero volume, and unknowable physics. At its heart, the laws of nature stop making sense. Einstein's equations, which describe everything from falling apples to orbiting galaxies, break down completely. At the center of a black hole, the universe runs out of language. And maybe that's the ultimate metaphor for the human condition. The closer we look into ourselves, the more we encounter mysteries no equation can solve. We tend to think of black holes as monsters, cosmic vacuum cleaners that devour everything. But in truth, they are more like paradoxes made visible. They are both destroyers and creators, endings and beginnings, chaos and order intertwined. Inside a black hole, the known universe ends. And yet, in that ending, physics whispers of new beginnings, wormholes, white holes, alternate universes. The very place where understanding collapses may also be where imagination takes over. That's what draws us to them. They are the universe's way of reminding us that the frontier of knowledge will always border mystery. Let me tell you a story. Once, not long ago, in cosmic terms, humanity believed the universe was eternal, static, and unchanging. Then Einstein came along and showed that space and time are not stage and actors. They are the play itself, warping and stretching in response to matter and energy. And within his equations, hidden like a mathematical ghost, was the prediction of black holes. Einstein didn't believe they could exist. He thought nature would find a way to prevent such absurdities. But nature, as it turns out, has a vivid imagination of its own. In 1939, a young American physicist named Robert Oppenheimer, yes, the same Oppenheimer who would later build the atomic bomb, calculated that when a star's fuel runs out, gravity wins the eternal tug of war. The star collapses into a point so dense that even light cannot escape. It was the birth of the idea of the black hole, and it came from a man who would soon help humanity unleash its own destructive singularity here on Earth. Perhaps that's not a coincidence. The line between creation and annihilation is thinner than we like to believe. Now imagine standing at the edge of one of these cosmic abysses. Around it is the event horizon, the point of no return. Cross it, and not even light can come back. It's not a physical surface, but a boundary in space-time itself. From the outside, time seems to slow as you approach it. To an external observer, you would appear frozen forever on the brink, your image stretched and reddened by gravity's pull. But to you, the traveler falling in, time would feel perfectly normal. You'd pass through the event horizon without noticing, never realizing that, from the universe's perspective, you have already disappeared. It's hauntingly poetic. A black hole doesn't just bend space, it bends perception. And maybe that's what we're all caught in today. Our own event horizons of perspective, bending truth until reality itself becomes subjective. But physics offers a glimmer of redemption even here. When Stephen Hawking studied black holes, he discovered they are not completely black. They emit a faint glow, now known as Hawking radiation, caused by quantum effects near the event horizon. Think about that. Even the darkest objects in the universe radiate light. Even where gravity seems absolute, the laws of nature find a way to let something escape. If that's true of black holes, maybe it can be true of us too. Maybe no matter how heavy the gravity of despair, ignorance, or fear, there's always a quantum possibility of light. But let's return to the question, what is hiding inside the center of a black hole? Physics says we can't know. Every attempt to peek inside ends with equations collapsing into infinity numbers that blow up like cosmic fireworks, telling us our tools are not enough. But what if the answer isn't just about physics? What if what's hiding inside a black hole is the same thing that's hiding inside us? Potential. An undiscovered law of nature waiting to be expressed. A truth so dense it bends reality itself. When we stare into a black hole, we're looking at the limit of comprehension, the border between what we can measure and what we can imagine. And that border, that threshold, is where all discovery happens. You see, black holes are not isolated monsters lurking in deep space. They are central characters in the story of the cosmos. Every galaxy, including our own Milky Way, has one at its heart, a supermassive black hole, millions or billions of times heavier than the Sunday. And far from tearing their galaxies apart, these black holes may actually hold them together. The same gravity that devours also stabilizes. The same darkness that hides light also gives galaxies their shape. Without black holes, the night sky might be unrecognizable. Think about the irony of that. The very things we fear most may be the reason we exist at all. That's true not just of astrophysics, but of life. Inside every failure, every loss, every darkness, there's often a hidden order we can't yet see. What looks like collapse may actually be creation and progress. Stars, D2, give life to new worlds. Endings are just beginnings under different names. So when we ask, what is hiding inside a black hole? Maybe we're also asking, what's hiding inside the things we fear? And the answer might be the same: transformation. The physics of black holes has always been a story of contradictions. They are simple, yet complex, invisible, yet influential, terrifying, yet beautiful. In many ways, they are the universe's way of saying, you don't know everything yet. And perhaps that's the most important lesson they teach: humility. Because in a cosmos that stretches across 93 billion light years, where the known laws of nature fail at the heart of a black hole, arrogance is not only misplaced, it's absurd. We are clever primates with telescopes, standing on a small rock orbiting an average star, trying to decode eternity. That we can even ask what lies inside a black hole is, in itself, miraculous. And yet, the deeper question remains. If black holes mark the limits of physical understanding, what do they tell us about the limits of human potential? If gravity can bend light, can truth bend perception? If matter can collapse into infinite density, can consciousness expand into infinite awareness? Maybe the black hole isn't the end of the story. Maybe it's a mirror held up to the universe, reflecting its own desire to know itself. Because here's the great cosmic irony. A black hole hides everything, and yet, through it, we've learned more about the nature of reality than almost anything else. The darkness illuminates, the silence speaks, the void creates. We often imagine the edge of a black hole as a cosmic cliff, but in truth, it's a negotiation between two of the universe's most uncompromising laws: general relativity and quantum mechanics. Relativity describes the grand stage stars, galaxies, the slow ballet of space-time itself. Quantum mechanics describes the dancers, particles, probabilities, the restless jitter at the smallest scales. Each works perfectly in its own domain. But put them in the same room and they refuse to speak the same language. A black hole forces them to share the stage. And the result is chaos, beautiful, unresolved chaos. It's as though the universe itself keeps secrets even from its own equations. At the heart of the mystery lies a simple paradox. If you throw something into a black hole, a planet, a photon, a piece of paper with a sonnet on it, physics says the information describing it can never truly disappear. Energy can be transformed, matter can change form, but information must persist. Yet a black hole seems to erase information completely. It swallows it past the event horizon and hides it forever. This contradiction is known as the information paradox, and it keeps physicists awake at night. Stephen Hawking spent decades wrestling with it. He once suggested that information really is lost, that the universe allows permanent erasure. But later, as evidence mounted, he reversed his view. The information, he said, must somehow be encoded in the radiation that leaks from the hole. If that's true, then nothing, not even falling into oblivion, is ever truly forgotten. That's a scientific statement. But it's also an extraordinary metaphor for life. Maybe everything we are, every thought, every act of kindness, every mistake, leaves an imprint somewhere in the fabric of reality. Maybe nothing is lost. It only changes form. When I talk to audiences about this, people often ask, so what's really inside the black hole? And I tell them, we don't know yet. But here's what's fascinating. Every time we think we're closing in on an answer, we discover a deeper layer of the question. It's like peeling an onion that turns out to be infinite. At this singularity, that mysterious center where density becomes infinite, the equations stop working. That doesn't mean physics fails. It means we've reached the edge of our understanding. And every frontier, from the ocean depths to the cosmic void, begins the same way, with failure followed by curiosity. That's the pulse of discovery. You see, the universe doesn't hand us answers. It hands us puzzles and then quietly waits to see what kind of species we'll be. Will we look away when the math gets difficult? Or will we keep looking, keep asking, keep falling into mystery until we find a new way of seeing? That's what the black hole represents, not just a cosmic object, but a challenge to imagination itself. The deeper you go, the stranger the physics becomes. Near the event horizon, time slows. From the outside, an observer sees you approach, but never cross the boundary. You fade, red-shifted into eternity. From your perspective, however, you cross freely, plunging toward what looks like the center of all things. Inside, the roles of space and time may even swap places. Moving forward in time could become moving toward the singularity, as though the future itself pulls you inward. If that's true, then every black hole is not a place but a destiny. And that's where physics begins to sound a lot like philosophy. When I teach this, I can't help noticing how often the universe's rules resemble our own emotional lives. We too have event horizons, boundaries beyond which others can't see the truth of what we carry. We too collapse under the weight of our own gravity, sometimes the accumulation of memories, regrets, ambitions, love, and yet, within that collapse, something new often emerges. Insight, growth, rebirth. Maybe that's why black holes fascinate us. They are mirrors, physical embodiments of our psychological landscapes. They remind us that destruction and creation are partners, that endings are just transformations too dense for our current understanding. Think of the earliest stars, the ones that died, so that heavier elements could exist. Their collapse created black holes, but also forged carbon, iron, oxygen, the building blocks of life. When a massive star dies, it gives birth to possibility. You and I are literally made of stellar corpses. Our atoms are memorials to supernovae. So when we look at black holes, we're looking at our ancestors, not metaphorically, but materially. They are the tombstones of stars and the wombs of worlds. If that doesn't humble you, check your pulse. Here's another paradox to sit with. A black hole seems to destroy information, yet the entire universe may function like a vast black hole itself, finite, bounded by an event horizon beyond which we cannot see. If so, everything we call reality might be a hologram projected from that boundary. Space and time themselves could be emergent phenomena, like waves on the surface of a deeper sea. We are used to thinking of ourselves as beings in space. But maybe space is a property of being. Maybe reality isn't a container we live in, but a story we continuously tell. That's not mysticism, that's modern theoretical physics. It's also a reminder that perspective is everything. And it makes me wonder, if consciousness arises from the same laws that govern black holes, could awareness itself be another way the universe avoids losing information? Maybe thought is how the cosmos keeps a backup copy of itself. You, me, every mind that has ever existed, perhaps we are the universe, remembering what it has done. Each neuron firing is another photon escaping the event horizon of forgetfulness. When we create art, when we love, when we ask questions about the nature of existence, we're doing the same thing black holes do. We're transforming energy into meaning. That's what I find so moving about astrophysics. It's not cold math about distant things. It's the story of how the distant and the intimate are the same. The curvature of space-time is the curvature of empathy. The way mass bends space is the way experience bends perception. Gravity isn't just attraction between bodies. It's the geometry of connection. Everything pulls on everything else. And in that web of influence, nothing truly stands alone. That's not poetry, that's Einstein. And it's also philosophy at its most beautiful. So, what is hiding inside the center of a black hole? The honest answer is still, we don't know. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the universe has built into its design a few unsolvable mysteries, not to frustrate us, but to invite us. Because the search itself is what gives meaning. If everything were knowable, curiosity would die. If every secret were revealed, wonder would vanish. A black hole keeps wonder alive by reminding us that even in an age of particle colliders and quantum computers, the cosmos still holds doors we cannot open yet. And perhaps, when we finally do, we'll find that what lies inside isn't destruction, but understanding that the singularity is not a wall, but a bridge from physics to philosophy, from matter to meaning. Because every time we chase darkness, we find light. Every time we reach the limits of our equations, we discover new ways to think. That's what science is. It's not a collection of answers. It's a way of falling forever toward truth, asymptotically, beautifully, endlessly. When our ancestors first looked into the night sky, they didn't see black holes. They saw mysteries. The void between the stars wasn't a vacuum. It was alive with gods, monsters, and stories meant to explain the darkness. To them, the heavens were not a map of physical space, they were a mirror of moral order. Every eclipse was an omen, every comet a warning. The sky wasn't silent, it was speaking. And maybe, in a way, they weren't entirely wrong. Because to gaze into the dark is always to confront ourselves. The questions we ask of the universe are the same ones we've always asked, in whispers. Where did we come from? Why are we here? What happens when everything collapses? The black hole is simply the modern version of that old question, polished in mathematics instead of myth. Thousands of years ago, long before telescopes, people understood something profound about survival. Curiosity is our oldest defense mechanism. When other species ran from the fire, humans stared into it. When others hid from the storm, we watched the lightning and wondered why it struck. Curiosity didn't just give us knowledge, it gave us resilience. That impulse to peer into danger, to ask what hides in the darkness, is written into our DNA. It's why we crossed oceans, split atoms, mapped genomes, and pointed instruments at the heart of galaxies. And yet, it's also why we create our own catastrophes. Curiosity without conscience becomes consumption. Discovery without empathy becomes domination. If knowledge is power, then wisdom is gravity. It holds knowledge together, prevents it from flying apart into chaos. Look through history, and you'll see how often we've had to relearn that truth. We mastered fire and built cities, only to watch them burn in our own wars. We discovered the atom's energy, then tested it in deserts until the sky glowed. We unlocked the genome, then patented pieces of life as if they were property. Each time, we reached for understanding and found temptation instead. Each time, we created something luminous and risked being blinded by our own light. It's as if civilization itself lives near an event horizon, forever pulled between enlightenment and collapse. We keep orbiting that boundary, testing how close we can get without falling in. The black hole, in this sense, isn't just a cosmic object. It's a warning written in the stars. It says, if you keep compressing without balance, you will collapse. Too much gravity, and not even light escapes. Too much power, and not even truth escapes. When we hoard energy, resources, attention, when everything bends toward a single center of greed or control, we mimic the physics of a dying star. And the result is always the same: implosion. The only thing that can counter gravity is expansion, not of space, but of awareness. The turning points in human history have always come when our horizon expanded. When we realized Earth is not the center of the universe. When we discovered that every human shares the same genetic code. When we learned that light behaves both as particle and wave, reminding us that duality is not contradiction, it's completeness. Each expansion humbled us, and each humility became a step forward. The black hole, too, humbles us. It tells us there are limits to certainty, boundaries to logic, edges to comprehension, and within those edges, there is still beauty, maybe even purpose. Consider this. In the Milky Way, our home galaxy, the central black hole is 4 million times the mass of the Sun. Yet, if you removed it, the galaxy's structure would unravel. The darkness, in other words, gives shape to the light. That's not just astrophysics, that's an allegory for civilization itself. Without challenge, there is no creativity. Without suffering, there is no empathy. Without the unknown, there is no progress. So maybe the void isn't our enemy after all. Maybe it's our most honest teacher. Every age has its own version of the darkness. For the ancients, it was the wrath of unseen gods. For the medieval mind, it was the edge of the map. Here be dragons! For us, it's the black hole, the singularity at the heart of physics, where even our best theories collapse. But the pattern is the same. What begins as fear becomes fascination. And what begins as fascination becomes knowledge. That's how species grow up. Fear is gravity pulling us inward. Curiosity is escape velocity. In the 20th century, humanity reached escape velocity literally. We left the cradle of Earth and touched the moon. For the first time, we became a species capable of looking at our home from the outside. That image changed everything. You could see in one photograph all of human history, every love story, every war, every act of creation contained within a single shimmering sphere. It was beautiful and terrifying because it showed how small we are and how much depends on us. In that moment, our horizon wasn't just physical, it was moral. We had looked into the void of space and seen ourselves reflected there. Black holes do the same thing. They confront us with the limits of comprehension, and in doing so, remind us what it means to wonder. To ask what hides inside a black hole is to ask what hides inside reality itself, the line between existence and non-existence, something and nothing. But it's also to ask what hides inside us, what keeps us reaching for light even when we know it can't escape. That impulse to try anyway is the most human thing about us. The universe may be indifferent, but we are not. And that makes all the difference. In the end, the human horizon isn't measured in miles or megaparsecs. It's measured in empathy, in our ability to see beyond the event horizons of our own perspectives, to imagine what another being feels, to act as if the whole planet matters, to understand that knowledge and compassion must orbit the same truth, or both will fall into darkness. That's how a civilization avoids collapse. That's how a mind avoids despair. You expand the horizon not by moving through space, but by growing in awareness. Every discovery in the history of science has two faces. One shows us the universe, the other shows us ourselves. When Galileo turned his telescope toward Jupiter, he didn't just see moons, he saw humility. When Darwin studied life's endless variations, he didn't just see evolution, he saw kinship. When Einstein bent time and space, he didn't just see relativity, he saw connection. Every act of observation is also an act of introspection. Because to study the cosmos is to study the mind that questions it. And so, when we stare into a black hole, what we really confront is not just gravity, but the gravity of our own choices. It's tempting to think that the universe is a neutral place, indifferent to what we do. But that's only half true. Yes, the laws of physics are impersonal. They apply equally to stars and stones. But how we respond to those laws, how we use the knowledge they give us, that part is profoundly moral. The equations don't tell us what to value. We do. When Oppenheimer realized that the same physics which governs stars could ignite a bomb, he quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." It was not a celebration, but a confession. We had crossed our own event horizon, a boundary between innocence and awareness. From that point onward, knowledge could no longer be separated from responsibility. Every discovery since has deepened that truth. We learned to split the atom. We had to learn restraint. We mapped the genome. We had to learn ethics. We built the internet. We had to learn empathy in the digital age. Each invention bent the fabric of civilization, the way gravity bends space-time. And just as a black hole can distort light, power can distort perspective. Think of the event horizon as a test. It asks, what will you do with what you know? Will you hoard it, weaponize it, monetize it? Or will you turn it outward, use it to illuminate, to connect, to understand? History tells both stories. The same mathematics that sends probes to Mars also guided the trajectory of missiles. The same algorithms that decode the genome also manipulate belief. Human progress, like a star, carries the seeds of its own collapse. The greater the mass of knowledge, the stronger the pull of its gravity. Unless balanced by compassion, it risks becoming a black hole of meaning where nothing escapes but noise. That's why reflection matters. Because the light that escapes our moral gravity is what keeps civilization alive. Hawking showed that even a black hole, over immense time, releases energy, not much, but enough to prove that nothing is perfectly sealed. So too with societies. Even in their darkest eras, there's always a leak of truth, a spark of conscience that refuses to be contained. It might take generations, but it's there. The abolition of slavery, the rise of human rights, the recognition of the planet's fragility. These are our Hawking radiations. They are the faint but persistent glow that says awareness still escapes. The danger isn't the darkness. It's forgetting that light exists. Civilizations don't fall because they lack intelligence. They fall because they lose perspective. Rome didn't collapse from ignorance. It drowned in its own brilliance. Knowledge multiplied faster than wisdom. Comfort eclipsed curiosity. Noise replaced wonder. Every time humanity stops asking why, a little more light disappears beyond the horizon. So when I speak of black holes, I'm not just describing astrophysical objects. I'm describing what happens when minds, institutions, even cultures collapse inward under their own mass, when dialogue turns into echo, when certainty replaces curiosity. The cure for that collapse is not more data, it's deeper seeing. In the lab, observation changes reality. That's the lesson of quantum mechanics. In society, awareness changes behavior. That's the lesson of history. Both tell us that the act of seeing matters. So when we look at the image of a black hole, that glowing ring of captured light around infinite shadow, we are seeing a photograph of our own condition. Everything we understand encircling everything we don't. Knowledge outlining mystery. Light bordering darkness. It is quite literally a portrait of understanding itself. And yet, the more we learn about the universe, the more it seems to reflect our inner architecture. A neuron and a galaxy follow similar patterns. A network of galaxies looks eerily like a web of brain cells. The equations describing entropy, the measure of disorder, apply equally to the cosmos and to consciousness. Maybe that's not coincidence. Maybe the universe isn't just a place we study, but a process we participate in. Maybe mind and cosmos are two ways of the same reality knowing itself. If that's true, then morality isn't something imposed on nature, it's nature recognizing itself through empathy. Awareness is how the universe corrects its own course. This is why science and philosophy need each other. Science tells us how things work. Philosophy asks why it matters. Without philosophy, science is blind. Without science, philosophy is empty. When the two dance, we get understanding. And understanding is what lifts us out of darkness. So, what is hiding inside the center of a black hole? Perhaps, ultimately, a mirror. Not a literal one, but a reflection of every question we've ever asked. A reminder that knowledge is not an end, but a relationship. That the point of knowing the universe is not to control it, but to belong to it more consciously. If the singularity represents the failure of equations, it might also represent the beginning of wisdom, the place where certainty ends and wonder begin. And maybe that's what the universe wants from us. Not answers carved in stone, but minds that stay curious. Because when curiosity meets compassion, understanding becomes luminous. That light, faint, persistent, indestructible is the only thing that truly escapes. There's a quiet kind of heroism in the universe, a refusal of absolute darkness. Even the most ruthless gravity, the most extreme collapse, cannot hold back every spark forever. Stephen Hawking discovered that black holes leak energy. Tiny quantum fluctuations at their edges create pairs of particles. One falls in, the other escapes. Over inconceivable stretches of time, those small leaks drain the hole's mass until it fades away in a final flash. It's an extraordinary truth. Even where light seems trapped, the laws of nature find a loophole. The cosmos always leaves room for redemption. I've always loved that idea, that the universe, for all its cold precision, is quietly generous. It refuses permanence in either direction. Nothing lasts forever, not stars, not pain, not even black holes. Entropy wins in the long run. But in the meantime, existence insists on brightness. A star will fight gravity for billions of years before surrendering. Life will claw its way through volcanic ash and frozen ice. A mind will keep searching for meaning, even when meaning seems mathematically impossible. If physics has a moral, it might be this: the tendency toward darkness is universal, but so is the counterforce, the urge to shine. When I tell students about Hawking radiation, I see their faces light up not just with curiosity, but with recognition. They understand it instantly because it mirrors their own experience. We've all stood at the edge of something that seemed to consume everything: grief, failure, fear, and yet found somehow that a small part of us escaped. A fragment of light, a bit of warmth. You could call it hope, resilience, awareness, the name doesn't matter. What matters is that it happens. The same physics that governs the cosmos also governs us. The darkest systems still radiate. That's why I sometimes say Hawking radiation is the universe's quiet vote for optimism. It tells us that endings are never absolute. Even in total collapse, something whispers its way back into the light. In a black hole, the information once thought lost is slowly released, again distorted, faint, but not gone. In our own lives, that happens too. We change, we forget, we fail. Yet, fragments of what we were leak back into the world through the people we touch, the work we do, the stories we tell. Energy is never destroyed, meaning perhaps isn't either. This is what I find so comforting about science. It doesn't promise happy endings, but it shows that the universe is built to recycle everything matter, energy, experience. Nothing is wasted. A dying star feeds the nebula that will form new suns. A collapsing civilization leaves behind ideas that seed the next. A lost moment, remembered, becomes wisdom. In that sense, Hawking radiation isn't just a property of black holes, it's a property of life. We are all leaking light. Look around. Every act of kindness, every flash of insight, every small rebellion against apathy, that's our radiation. It escapes the gravity of despair. It carries information forward. It's not dramatic. It's not cosmic in scale. But in the long arithmetic of existence, those tiny emissions add up. They change the energy balance of the human story. Hawking once said, "Where there's life, there's hope." He wasn't speaking as a sentimentalist, but as a physicist. He meant it literally. As long as systems exchange energy, possibilities remain open. And possibility is the universe's most sacred constant. It's the one variable that refuses to go to zero. It's what allows something to arise from nothing, awareness from matter, compassion from competition. When you understand that, optimism stops being naive. It becomes physics. Now, imagine this. The last moments of a black hole. After eons of slow leaking, it releases its final energy, a brief, bright flash, and then it's gone. But that flash carries everything it ever consumed, spread thin across the cosmos. It's the ultimate act of letting go, the ultimate transformation. And maybe when we die, or when civilizations die, that's what really happens. The light doesn't vanish, it disperses. The story doesn't end, It changes form. We're not exceptions to the laws of the universe. We are expressions of them. That's why I believe our job, while we're here, isn't to escape the darkness. It's to learn how to radiate through it, to convert experience, even the painful kind, into understanding, to turn gravity into grace. Because awareness itself is a kind of radiation. It escapes confinement, it travels, it warms, and the more we share it, the more the universe knows itself. When I look at humanity from this angle, I don't see chaos or decay. I see an infant cosmos learning to communicate. We're the universe's latest experiment in self-expression, a way for atoms to write poetry, for carbon to contemplate infinity, and we are doing exactly what the cosmos does at every scale, balancing collapse and creation, emitting what light we can. Each generation adds a wavelength to that spectrum. Each discovery, each act of empathy is another photon on the cosmic background of meaning. The light escapes, always. If the universe has a voice, it speaks through awareness. And right now, that awareness is us. For all our frailty, for all our confusion, we are the only known species able to look at the sky and ask not just what it is, but why it is at all. Every telescope, every equation, every heartbeat of curiosity is the cosmos waking up a little more. But awareness is not just a privilege, it's a responsibility. Because the moment you realize you are made of stars, you also realize you are accountable to them. Our ancestors feared the heavens. They built myths to make sense of thunder and eclipse. Then they built science, and with it came power, the power to shape, to alter, even to destroy. Now we stand at the point in history where that power has outgrown our wisdom. We can change the atmosphere faster than the Earth can heal it. We can rewrite genes before we fully understand the sentence of life. We can move information at the speed of light, but empathy still travels at a crawl. The black hole is no longer out there. It's the potential collapse inside our own civilization. Every act of neglect adds mass to it. Every act of awareness subtracts. In physics, gravity is not evil. It's simply consequence. And so it is with the gravity of our actions. What we emit, carbon, noise, data, indifference, curves the space of our collective future. We're all shaping the same field, whether we mean to or not. That's what makes responsibility cosmic. It's not about guilt, it's about geometry. Each of us bends the trajectory of tomorrow. When astronauts first saw Earth from orbit, they described a moment that changed them forever. The thin blue atmosphere looked so fragile, it could be wiped away with a breath. They saw no borders, no politics, only patterns of cloud and ocean. From that distance, responsibility stops being abstract. It becomes obvious. You protect what you can see in full. If everyone could see Earth from space, maybe we treat it like what it truly is, not a possession, but a miracle. Responsibility begins with that kind of seeing, to see not just the parts, but the pattern, to realize that the same carbon in your bones moves through forests, oceans, and the breath of strangers. That every heartbeat depends on the quiet cooperation of trillions of cells. The universe runs on collaboration. So should we. Stars form because clouds of gas collapse together, not apart. Galaxies endure because gravity holds them in mutual orbit. Even black holes, those emblems of solitude, shape the rhythm of galaxies around them. If nature thrives through connection, what excuse do we have for division? Our greatest tools, science, art, compassion, are not weapons against the universe. They're the ways we join its conversation. Each discovery says, we're listening. Each act of kindness says, we've heard you. When we teach a child to read, we extend the lifespan of meaning. When we protect a forest, we preserve the planet's memory. When we choose understanding over fear, we mirror the universe's own bias toward complexity in life. Responsibility, then, is not a burden. It's participation. It's the privilege of being a conscious part of creation. Still, awareness is demanding. It asks us to face uncomfortable truths, that our comfort is borrowed from finite systems, that the future will remember us by what we restore, not what we consume. that every advance in power must be matched by a leap in empathy. But these are not reasons for despair. They are coordinates for growth. The same way gravity shapes stars, constraint shapes character. A black hole's event horizon define us it. So do our limits define us. Responsibility is not about perfection. It's about direction. The good news is that the universe gives second chances. A star that dies and collapses seeds new worlds with its ashes. A planet scarred by extinction breeds new life in time. Entropy may always increase, but within that flow, there's room for local order, for life, for love, for art. Our task is to be one of those local exceptions, islands of order in the sea of decay. To be the kind of anomaly the cosmos smiles at and says, that's new. That's what responsibility means on a cosmic scale, to be improbable and to stay that way. You don't need to hold a telescope to take part in that. Every time you learn, you reduce entropy. Every time you help, you increase coherence. Every time you tell the truth, you align with the fundamental structure of the universe. Energy conserved, information preserved, connections honored. Maybe morality isn't a list of rules. Maybe it's physics lived consciously. So when you next look at the night sky, don't see emptiness. See context. See the vast stage that made your existence possible. And remember that the same laws that sculpt galaxies are sculpting you right now. Your choices ripple outward at the speed of light through ecosystems, economies, and generations. Responsibility is nothing more or less than acknowledging those ripples. The black hole teaches us that everything eventually interacts with everything else. We can't step outside the universe's equations. We can only decide whether to distort them or harmonize with them. And harmony, I think, is what the universe has been asking for all along. Not obedience, but resonance. Not worship, but understanding. Because when awareness aligns with action, the cosmos hears itself in tune. And that sound, that chord of life and understanding, is what we call meaning. If you could step outside space and time, see every moment, every cause and consequence, all at once, you would discover a universe made not of matter or light, but of awareness itself. Because awareness is what gives the cosmos context. It's the hidden dimension that transforms energy into experience, chaos into meaning, existence into story. We have length, width, height, and time. But awareness is the fifth. It's the axis along which consciousness moves, bending reality the way gravity bends light. Look closely, and you can see it everywhere. A photon traveling for 13 billion years becomes a picture in a telescope, and someone gasps in wonder. That gasp is awareness made audible. A tree converts sunlight into sugar, a poet converts heartbreak into language, a scientist converts data into understanding. Every conversion is the same process, energy rearranged by attention. Awareness is the universe learning how to see itself. For most of history, our awareness was local, tribal. We cared for our families, our villages, our borders. The horizon defined morality. Beyond it was myth. Then came exploration and science and communication. Our circle of empathy began to expand. We learned that the atom that burns in the sun is the same one that glows in our cells, that the carbon in our breath is borrowed from ancient oceans, that every border we draw is a line on a single organism, the Earth. Awareness grew, and with it, responsibility. That's what evolution really is, the expansion of awareness through time. It began with matter organizing itself into chemistry, chemistry into life, life into mind. Now it's mind organizing itself into meaning. The universe keeps inventing new ways to notice itself. We are one of them. When we ask, what is hiding inside the center of a black hole? The question itself is the answer. The thing hiding there is the same thing asking here. Awareness reaching across the void, searching for itself. If that sounds grand, remember it's also humble. Because awareness doesn't belong to us alone. It exists in every system that responds to its environment, from galaxies to ants. We are simply the first to know that we know. And with that knowing comes choice. The fifth dimension isn't a place you visit, it's a level of participation. Every time you act with understanding, you move through it. Every time you learn, you expand it. Every time you ignore, you contract it. The universe keeps a silent ledger, not of sins and virtues, but of awareness gained and squandered. Think of what we've done in one brief century. We've mapped the cosmic microwave background, the baby picture of the universe. We've built instruments sensitive enough to hear the ripple of space-time from colliding black holes. We've captured the shadow of a singularity itself. But the greatest image we could ever take would be of us an intelligent species, realizing that the power to destroy and the power to understand are the same power aimed in different directions. Awareness is the lens that decides which way we point it. The space race taught us that. It wasn't really about rockets, it was about perspective. When Armstrong set foot on the moon, we didn't just leave Earth, we discovered it. From that vantage point, our planet was a single heartbeat in a vast body. Now, half a century later, we face another race, not against another nation, but against our own indifference. We're racing to see whether awareness can expand faster than entropy, whether empathy can outpace extinction. That's the cosmic test. If you want to know what hides at the center of a black hole, imagine what hides at the center of a choice. Both contain infinite potential. Both collapse when left unobserved. Both reshape the future depending on what we decide to do. Awareness is the event horizon of ethics. Cross it and everything changes. So, what do we do with this knowledge? We begin small, we pay attention. We ask questions that connect rather than divide. We teach curiosity as a civic virtue. We treat wonder as a renewable resource. Because the more awareness we cultivate, the more stable the universe becomes through us. The laws of physics will continue without our permission, but meaning depends entirely on participation. Someday, our descendants, or perhaps some other consciousness, will look back at this epoch and measure it not by technology, but by awareness. Did we recognize our interdependence in time? Did we learn to think as a planet before we tried to live on another one? Did we treat knowledge as sacred or as currency? Those will be the real questions of history. Maybe that's what black holes are teaching us in their silence. That compression without awareness leads to collapse. That energy without purpose becomes gravity, pulling everything inward until nothing escapes. But awareness is expansion. It's the Big Bang in miniature, happening every time a mind opens. The antidote to entropy, the opposite of despair. If there's a single lesson to take from the universe, it's this. Everything changes form, but nothing is wasted. Even darkness radiates. Even collapse creates. Alpha endings begin again. We are part of that cycle, participants in the longest experiment ever run. The cosmos is asking only one thing of us. Stay curious long enough to matter. So tonight, when you look up at the sky, remember, you are seeing ancient light and sending new light back. Every glance, every thought is a conversation across billions of years. You are both the observer and the observed, the question and the answer. And somewhere beyond the event horizon of understanding, the universe is listening when the final record of humanity is written not in books, but in the cosmic background itself. May it read that, for a brief moment, awareness flourished, that we learned to see the universe not as something to conquer, but as something to continue. That we recognize the black hole not as an end, but as an invitation, because that's what hides at its center. Not destruction, not chaos, but potential pure, unmeasured, waiting to become light. And in that light, the universe finally knows itself. In the end, every question we ask of the universe is also a question we ask of ourselves. When we stare into a black hole, we aren't looking into death, we're looking into possibility. Because if light can find a way to escape gravity, then awareness can find a way to transcend fear. If the universe can turn collapse into creation, then so can we. So the next time you see the night sky, remember that it is not silent. It is whispering a single, patient truth. You are the way the cosmos sees itself. You are the light that escaped. Carry that thought gently. It is both your inheritance and your task. Because the universe will keep expanding long after we're gone, But for this brief moment, it has chosen you to understand it.